Hello there, and welcome to the very first demo and tutorial for Ultimate Brain, which is my complete all-in-one productivity system template / second brain for Notion. This is truly an all-in-one productivity system, and it is what I have wanted inside of Notion ever since I started using this tool back in 2018. I've always wanted a place to combine my tasks, my projects, my notes, even my goals, and to be able to organize everything the way it should be, and to be able to capture things quickly and process them when I want. So, Ultimate Brain is the result of literally years of me trying to design systems for myself and about a month of just blistering design work trying to get this thing actually working, and it is finally here. I'm super happy with it. I'm super excited to start using it myself, and I'm very grateful and thankful to you for buying it and supporting my work. So thank you, and let's get into what all you can do with Ultimate Brain. So the first thing that I want to let you know is that Ultimate Brain is very different from my other task management and even Creator's Companion templates, because Ultimate Brain is entirely designed around letting you do what you want to do. So Ultimate Brain includes organization via Tiago Forte's PARA methodology: projects, areas, resources, and archives. It also lets you do getting things done style, or GTD style, task and note processing if you want to. But it also supports very classical task and note processing. So if you're coming from a tool like Todoist or Microsoft To Do for task management, you're going to be right at home here. If you're coming from a tool like Evernote for taking notes, or Bear or something like that, you will also be right at home here, because there are dashboards that look very similar and act similar to those classic tools. And then if you want to get fancy and do things like GTD style processing, you can. So with that being said, I want to give you just a brief overview of everything that comes in Ultimate Brain, and then I'll start showing you some examples of some of the really cool stuff that you can do. Looking here on the Ultimate Brain homepage, this is what it looks like when you'll get the template, at least on launch day. We have three different sections. We have some specialized dashboards. We have what I'm calling productivity views, which are basically just our basic views for the different types of information we're going to be working with, like your tasks and your projects and your notes, etc. And then we have some special views. We have a quick links page, which is just a blank page where you can link to very specific pages in your Notion workspace, and then you could favorite that page and have it in your sidebar, which is pretty useful. I'll show you that later. And then we have a couple of very special views, one for tracking the books that you read and taking notes on them, and then one for tracking recipes. These both tie into the master notes database, but since they have some very special and particular metadata properties like breakfast, lunch, dinner, or rating, author, those kind of things, I decided to create these special views. And they exist, number one, because I wanted them, and I think you'll find them useful, but they also exist as examples of what you could do for your own special types of data using the master notes or even tasks database. So we'll get into those a little bit later. Also, I do want to let you know that this big tutorial video is eventually going to be split into many videos. I'm just doing this all in one go because people really wanted this template to launch, and I wanted to give it to them. So I'm doing the just-in-time method here, where I'm just kind of creating one big video to give you all the context you hopefully need to get started exploring. And then over time, in the coming days, we'll be fleshing out the circle tutorial area with lots of very bite-sized tutorials that will include more detail, but also be maybe a little bit more easily parsed for a particular use case. So if you're coming in really early, thank you for bearing with me with this big, long tutorial. And let's start looking at some of these views. So the main view inside of Ultimate Brain is going to be this dashboard here. And I've created this as sort of a way to give you access to the most used areas of the system that you're going to want. So it's going to be your task areas and your notes areas, along with your high priority projects. You can actually mark projects as being high priority. That way, you don't see every project you've ever recorded or worked on here. You instead see only the ones that are supposed to be a priority right now. And I've adopted a bit of a design pattern here that I haven't used in my other templates, but I'm probably going to be adding to my templates in the future. And that is this combined link and toggle method. So with this task inbox, for example, you can open up and see the inbox right here. And we could do the same thing for, say, our recent notes. Or if you're, say, on a mobile device, you could simply click onto the task inbox page itself, or maybe even have this linked on your home screen via the Notion widget or via your favorites bar and go right to just the inbox. So Ultimate Brain has been designed for both mobile and desktop views, which a lot of other Notion templates seem not to be, and is kind of a pet peeve of mine. So I wanted to make sure that everything in the system was easily usable, whether you're on a mobile device or on your big desktop. So you have all these views, these specific pages that you can use, or you can just view them in the toggles on the desktop. So within the desktop, you have access to all of your task views. We can see the inbox here. We have a specific quick capture page, and it differs from the inbox in one key way, where anything you add to this quick capture page is only going to show up on the day you added it. So the idea here is every single day this is going to get cleaned out. The things you added, if you have not processed them, are also going to be in your inboxes. So they're not going to disappear on you, but the idea is this quick capture page is always a clean, minimalistic page where you can just jump in and add something to your system, knowing that you can process it later. We have both task and note areas. Another thing you're going to notice in pretty much every page of Ultimate Brain is this little quick links toggle here. This is, again, a mobile device optimization because you don't want to have to scroll all the time. So if you're on your phone, you can open this up and you'll see this little table of contents widget where you can just click, and if you were on a mobile device, it would have zoomed right down to this note inbox heading here, which was just highlighted. Another thing is many of these dashboards in Ultimate Brain have page links inside of their headers, which again will let you zoom right to those very specific pages in case you want to just see that page. So as you're hopefully coming to realize here, Ultimate Brain is really about giving you the choice to use the pages you want to use and ignore the pages you want to ignore. If you don't want to use a big dashboard like this, you don't have to. In fact, what you could do is even copy these database blocks themselves and add them to a new page, like a simplified dashboard or a dashboard that is very specific to only the things you want. It's really made to let you do what you want to do, but there's a lot of stuff underneath the hood that keeps things in their places. So we have that dashboard page here. Another really cool page that I'm excited about is called My Day. And this is a dashboard specifically for planning out your day and having everything else get out of your way. So the first thing you'll notice here is a synced block that contains 2 callouts with a couple of checkboxes. This is sort of a digital equivalent of the whiteboard that I have right behind my desk, where I like to plan my day and try to add just 2 or 3 big tasks that I'm trying to get done, along with some self-care things. And I added this here specifically for myself because I find that when I'm at work, if I haven't specifically tried to say I'm going to do this for self-care, I'll get caught up in my work tasks and I won't take care of myself. So by having that right next to the actual work tasks I'm going to do, I can help myself prioritize and remember to do these things. And we also have an upcoming tasks area where you can see either your calendar, you can see your next 7 days lists. And if you're familiar with Ultimate Tasks, these are the exact lists from Ultimate Tasks, where I can see anything that is scheduled to be done in the next 7 days. Or if you are a getting things done aficionado, you can also switch over to your due next list. And if you're familiar with getting things done, you will know that due next or next actions are items that you're supposed to do as soon as possible, but they don't have a specific due date that you have to do them on. So we've had, I've actually added in different GTD-style lists that can complement your time-based lists like the calendar here. So if you wanted to come in and plan your day every single morning, you could come to the My Day view. You could check out your upcoming tasks that have to be done on the calendar. You could check out your due next lists, and you could also look at any priority projects and review what's inside of those projects, maybe adding those tasks to a due next list or giving them a specific due date. There is also a daily journal, and this is part of the notes database, but if we add a note here and we spawn from this daily note template, we can create a sort of daily journal, which also acts as a hub here. Again, going off the theme of giving you the choice to use this template how you want. And the great thing about Notion is we are able to essentially use the same data in different places because everything lives in databases. So by using different filtered views and different sorting criteria, we can look at the same databases in different contexts and see only the things that we want to see, which is kind of the great thing about Notion, along with the fact that we can build our own designs and workflows. So I have created this daily note template where I can see, number one, a drop down with just some daily habits I can check off if I want to do that. I can see once again that synced block. So if I added some tasks and self-care items to my day dashboard, I would see them here. I can see once again my next 7 days and my due next list. So if I wanted to, I could just once a day spawn a daily note template inside my journal. I could do some morning pages if I want to do some journaling or some writing. I can review my day at the end to see how well I stuck to my plan. And I can open up these toggles while I'm planning my day to see what I'm supposed to do and add it to my day plan. And that is the journal. So that is pretty much the explanation of the My Day area. Let's now look at this Process tab. So this is a dashboard specifically for anyone who wants to use a getting things done style approach. And getting things done, or GTD, is the productivity methodology created by David Allen. And if you're not super familiar with it, we're going to have a whole video in the tutorials area for this template that will explain it in more detail. I've also got a main channel video that I'm planning here, but essentially the idea is everything that comes into your system should first land in an inbox. And then at least once a day, you go through your inbox and you process all the tasks in them, either adding them to a due next list, which are just next items that you should be doing soon, but don't have a specific due date, adding them to a calendar if they have a very specific due date when they're supposed to be done, or delegating them to somebody else, snoozing them, which in GTD methodology or terminology would be called putting it in an incubator or a tickler file, essentially reminding yourself to look at it at a date in the future, or putting it on a someday list. So, I don't know if I'm going to do this. Maybe someday I'm going to do it. Put that on the someday list so it's out of your hair and not mixed up in the tasks you're actually supposed to do. So here in Ultimate Brain, you can come into the process dashboard and you can actually start processing your tasks. So get a striped blazer. That's actually something that I'm going to do very soon. And before I actually add it to this smart list area where I can do next, delegated, or someday, I might actually give it a context. So get a striped blazer is a pretty low energy thing for me. It's not going to take a ton of energy, so I'm going to put it in low energy, and it's an errand. And if you add context or if you add projects here in this task intake area, it's not going to disappear. So you can easily process everything as you want and when it comes to contexts or projects. But once you add something to one of those GTD style lists, that is how it's going to disappear from the inbox. So in this case, I'm going to give it the due next smart list option, and we can see that it has popped up in the low energy and also errand contexts of my due next area. And we can process all of our tasks like that. So if I wanted to have something specific to the calendar, like today I want to reply to Tiago's DM here, I could just go to do and I would add it to the calendar and it would disappear. Taking my blazer to the tailor, that's another thing that I'm going to want to do next. Install a drying rack in the laundry room. That's actually something that I'll delegate to my fiance because she takes care of that room. So I'll add to delegated, and all of these things can be processed as I want to. Look into a sound card for the main editing PC. That's actually something that I do want to do, but I don't want to worry about it right now. So I'm actually going to go ahead and snooze that until next month. And as you process these things, you'll notice that they are going to start showing up in your smart lists. So my due next area is starting to fill up. My calendar now has multiple tasks on it. I even have a delegated task here, and I might actually add a wait date so I can note here's the date that I delegated it, just in case I need to follow up with the person that I delegated it to. And I can even add a note. So delegated to Anna would be my note for this one. Ones that I snoozed are going to show here, and then ones that I added to my someday list are going to show here. Note that this is a big dashboard for the GTD methodology, and just like with our date-based views in our inboxes, we have specific pages as well for each of these GTD style lists. So here is our GTD style inbox, which I've called intake because it is a bit different than our classical inboxes. Again, it's about giving you choice. So with our classical inboxes, specifically the tasks, your tasks will disappear when they are given a project, whereas here in the intake area, a project will not cause a task to disappear because it has to specifically go to one of those GTD style lists. If you are a little bit confused about this, check out the timestamps below. I have timestamped out this entire video, and if you don't care about GTD, you can skip this entirely. But just know that if you are using GTD, you have these specific pages for each of those GTD style lists, with the one exception that snoozed and someday tasks have been consolidated inside of one page called deferred, along with cold tasks, which are tasks that do have a due date, but are more than 2 weeks overdue and are not high priority. And the philosophy there is, I guess one of Ultimate Brain's biggest overarching philosophies is help you to keep the system from getting bloated over time. And one way that I do this is if you record a task, give it a due date, but then don't update that due date or do the task within 2 weeks, the idea is you didn't really care about that task and it wasn't really important. Otherwise, you would have taken care of it within the last 2 weeks. So it gets out of your normal today, next 7 days views. We don't want those gunking up with tons of overdue tasks like they do in Todoist and many classical task managers. And they'll show up here safely in this cold tasks area. They're not going to be deleted, but they do go to a special area that you would want to go check on instead of gunking up your main views. So that is sort of the GTD style workflow here in the process area. We also have a dashboard called Plan. And this is where you can plan out what you're going to be doing in the future using projects and goals inside of Ultimate Brain. So to start off, number one, we have this very simple priorities area where you can simply list out the things that you are really focused on at this point in your life. This is sort of a simplification of the now page concept. If you were to go to thomasjfrank.com/now, you would see this public page where I'm stating this is what I'm doing right now, and therefore I will say no to certain other things. This is sort of a little version of that you can write for yourself. And then we can plan out goals and projects, and we can see them in context of the quarter of the year that you're in, or by looking ahead to other quarters. So right now we are in Q2 2022 because it is currently April. So anything that is scheduled to be done with a target deadline within Q2 is going to show up in the this quarter area. So I can see here are all the projects that I am trying to get done this quarter. And here are all the goals that I'm trying to get done this quarter as well. And by looking at it in 90-day segments, you're able to look ahead and basically just get a better view of answering the question, can I do all this stuff realistically within the next 90 days? If you start seeing your this quarter thing filling up with tons and tons of projects, you might want to step back and ask yourself, am I trying to put too much on my plate? The other thing you can do is look ahead. So, say we're getting near the end of Q2, we might actually want to look at what's in Q3, and we see that we have one goal right there, and currently there are no projects in there. So whenever you set a target deadline for a goal and a project, which I'll talk about next, you'll see them in their respective quarter, or if you set them for years after this one, they're going to show up in the years ahead view. Again, goals and projects. So what are goals and projects? Well, first let's go to the project hub where you can see the projects that we have. They are underneath their respective areas, and we'll start talking about areas and resources very soon. The projects are essentially a bundle of tasks that have a set goal that you know you can accomplish. So things like launching this very Notion template, building this new set that I'm on right now, creating a new song for an instrumental album that I'm working on. These are projects. They're going to collect many tasks. So I want to have them be projects, not just tasks, but I want to also make sure that projects are only things that are actionable and that I know I can accomplish by taking specific actions. Goals are a little bit different. And I asked a lot of people on Twitter their thoughts when I was designing this, and it seems that goals and projects are quite similar, but a goal is an aspirational challenge that is going to cause a transformation in your life, and it often includes milestones that you can't take direct action to accomplish. So for example, hit $100,000 in template sales. My milestones here are specific dollar milestones. And I can do things that will help me get to, say, $100,000 in template sales. I can launch a new template. I can launch a sale. I can do better marketing. But $100,000 in template sales is not necessarily an actionable goal itself. So goals sort of exist one level of abstraction above projects, and fittingly, they can contain projects. So this hit $100,000 in template sales goal has a project down here, which is the Launch Ultimate Brain template. We can look at one more. For example, we have this hit a 1,200 pound powerlifting total. And within there, we've got some of the milestones checked off. I could even have a goal log if I wanted to keep a little bit of a journal of how I'm doing on this goal. And then I can add projects to the goal. So I have one project, which is setting up a mini garage gym, which is going to help me to train and help me to indirectly meet these milestones. So that is goals and projects. And with goals, with projects, there's always going to be a template that you can spawn from, which will bring in all of this good stuff within the template page. So whenever you're creating from a database inside of Ultimate Brain, especially if it is goals, projects, areas, or resources, there's going to be a template that you can spawn from to get all that good stuff. So let's now look at areas and resources. If you are familiar with Tiago Forte and his Building a Second Brain course, you are going to be right at home with what areas and resources are, except Ultimate Brain has a little bit of a twist in that both resources and projects and even goals can live inside an area. And that is, in my opinion, a bit of an improvement on the overall para philosophy, which was born out of Tiago using some more restrictive tools like Evernote or Todoist, things like that. So an area, defined by Tiago, is a sphere of activity with a standard to be maintained over time. Whereas a resource is a topic or a theme of ongoing interest. So a resource might be a folder inside of Evernote or notebook inside of Evernote where you take notes on things that are interesting to you, like interior design or productivity or business finance, fitness, nutrition, all these things. Whereas an area is sort of a higher level concept than that. And if you've ever watched my main channel, a lot of my productivity videos, you might be familiar with the term life buckets. That is sort of how I've always thought of the same concept that Tiago calls areas. The pieces of my life that I have a lot of actions, a lot of interests, basically like what divides my life up. So here in the demo, I've created areas for College Info Geek, which is my business, for health, and for music. And we can come into, let's just look at music real quick, our area template, and we can see that we have resources that exist within this area. We have projects inside this area. We even have goals inside of this area. So this collects all three of those different types of resources and can even show us all of the notes from within all of our resources inside this area. We can favorite some notes. So this is a note that was actually favorited inside of the singing resource, but it's also showing here in the area itself. And this sort of just gives us a hub or a homepage for everything relating to this area of our lives. Going back to areas and resources, we can also simply go into a resource and see things. So I'm going to go into, let's just say, this singing resource, and note that we can see how many notes are inside a resource. So it acts just like a notebook in Evernote. And we can go in and we can see all of our resource notes. We can sort by updated. We can sort by alphabetical. We can even give them types. So we might give them a book notes type, or idea, or journal, lecture, plan, reference, which in these cases are applied to these notes. And we can also favorite those notes. So you can see this vocal fry note has been check marked with favorite, making it show here in the area favorites. We can also clip things from the web. If you use the official Notion web clipper and you choose the All Notes database inside of your Notion workspace after you have Ultimate Brain, you're going to have your web clips go into the Ultimate Brain All Notes database. And then we can actually process them to show inside of our areas, and they are separate from the notes you take yourself to keep things more organized. So down here in web clips, we see all the things that we have clipped from the web related to singing. And we can even change our view from all clips here to by site, and it will separate out based on the base URL of the site you clipped. So if I had multiple clips from vocalbooth.com, they would all show here and they'd be nicely bundled within this little group here, which I could hide and show if I wanted to. I can also go back to the root area for singing, which again is our music page, and I can even look at our web clips, again, across all of our different resources, which is pretty useful. There's also a matrix view where I can see the types and the resources here. So if I wanted to go through and actually add types to all my notes, like mastering notes for Mike is probably going to be a reference. So I'm going to add that there. And music studio design inspo is probably going to be idea. Guitar songs to learn is going to be plan. And I can just go through there and I can organize my notes in this matrix view, and that's going to give all those notes their different types. If I had happened to add a note to the area itself and I wanted to then file it inside of a resource, I could do that by dragging from node type to any one of these resources and any one of these types if I wanted to. So again, you have a lot of flexibility here. And the point of Ultimate Brain, especially when it comes to that para philosophy, is to have areas be sort of a hub for everything else, so that way you can see anything related to that area inside of the area template. Now, I want to show you something really cool, which might be one of my absolute favorite features of Ultimate Brain, one that I'm most excited to use myself. And that is how projects work, specific to how they can pull in tasks and notes. So I'm going to go into this College Info Geek area, and I'm going to go into this Build New Set project. And what you will see inside of the project template is, number one, this cool little project progress bar, which is pretty fun. We can also add a target deadline. So you know what, let's just set this one for May 31st. I think by then I'll be able to build my new set and have it all done. And we have both tasks related to this project with multiple different views here. We also have notes related to the project. And I have created this note inside of the project template, which means that if I click into this note, we will see that it is associated specifically with this project, Build New Set. And I've got all sorts of cool stuff in here, different reference images that I found on the web for, the sort of vibe that I want in this set here. And this is the beauty of using Notion instead of multiple apps like Todoist and Evernote together, because I have a single project page that I can now open in any device, my iPhone, my computer here, my iPad, anything, and I have all the tasks related to the project, and I also have notes related to the project. But we can go one step further, because what if I have stuff inside of my brain, my second brain, that's related to this project, or that would be useful reference material, but it's stored somewhere else right now? How could I pull that in? Well, in another app, you would have to copy and paste, otherwise you wouldn't really have the idea. But inside of Ultimate Brain, there is a feature called Polls. So if I come to the notes area inside of my project and I switch over to the polls area, we will see both the specific notes that I've made for this project, but also if we come here to the properties and we pull a resource, we can actually pull in all the notes related to that resource. So because I'm building a new set here, I might want to bring in all of the notes that I have inside of my interior design resource. So I can go in here and I can find interior design. And once I do that, we can come down here and we can see all of the interior design notes that are inside of that resource. So I can sort of pull things from resources into my project. Now, what if I want to pull a very specific note instead of everything related to interior design? Well, underneath pulled resources, we see another relation called pulled notes. So I happen to know that inside of my music production resource, there is a note that I clipped about sound diffusion and absorption. And here it is, sound diffuser versus absorber. That's actually going to be quite useful for my studio redesign. Also, this music studio design inspo. I don't want to pull everything from music production, that entire resource, but I do want to pull these two notes. And once I do that, I can come down and see both of these notes have been added to my project. So using both pulled resources and pulled notes, we can bring in any notes, any web clips, anything we want from within our second brain into the project. And again, it's going to be part of this all-in-one project template, which will show us everything related to the project, including the task as well. And we can also see any pulled resources down here, which gives us a quick way to jump in and maybe see our favorites, or maybe split things out by web clips. So we just have better navigational possibilities than we've had with any other app that I have ever seen in the past, because we can build these things ourselves, which is really, really cool. Let's now talk a little bit about web clips once again. I'm gonna go back to the process area and show you how you could process your notes. So first and foremost, I guess because we're on it, I'll mention that there is just a reference list of all of your resources and areas. And that's just basically a way to get to them very quickly if you want to, or just to see which resources and areas you have so you can process more intelligently. You have a note intake area, which is going to show you notes that you have created yourself inside of your note inbox. And we can give it an area or resource or a project if we want, and that is going to make it disappear. So I'm going to actually add this to music production, because it is related to that. And we also have a web clip intake area. So again, if you're using the Notion web clipper, specifically the official one, it is going to automatically append a URL to any web page that you clip, and it's going to send it to whatever database that you choose. So as long as you choose the All Notes database, which is going to be inside of your workspace once you duplicate Ultimate Brain, you are going to have all of your web clips show up here in the note processing area of the process dashboard. And you can do the exact same thing that you would do with normal notes. You can add them to projects, or you can add them to areas and resources. So sound diffuser versus absorber, I'm gonna add that to music production, and I see it down there, but I could search for it if I wanted to. Difference between soundproofing, again, I'm going to add that to music production. I have a muscular tension and muscle growth article from Lyle McDonald. I'm gonna add that to my fitness resource. And I have self-employment tax stuff from the IRS. That's a good reference document for my business finance resource. So just like David Allen says, you come into your inbox once a day or on some sort of regular interval that you like, and you process everything that's inside your inbox, ideally getting it to an empty state. And that is how you sort of tend the garden that is your second brain. And once we've done that, now we can go into our resources and we can see, for example, in business finance, that our web clip for self-employment tax is now safely underneath the web clips area inside that resource. And the resource has a root area of College Info Geek. So if I go back there, I'm going to see the web clip here as well. Self-employment tax, Social Security, Medicaid taxes. So you have these sort of ways to drill down and see things at greater levels of specificity, but also if you go up to the more general levels, you can see everything as well, which is pretty cool. Let's now talk about the archive. So if you, again, are familiar with Tiago Forte's PARA methodology, projects, areas, resources, and archive. The archive is a place to send stuff that is no longer relevant to your life. So it is safely stored somewhere, but it is not deleted and it gets out of your way. There's this great fantasy book series called The Name of the Wind, and there's this school he goes to where there's two different sides of the library, and one I believe is called the Stacks, and you have to get permission to go back there, and it has just thousands upon thousands of books, and it's old and musty. It's where stuff goes to die. But it doesn't really die, it just stays there forever. It's this safe place where stuff goes once you want it out of your hair, but you want to make sure that it is accessible in the future if you need it to be. So completed tasks go down here at the bottom, and then notes, goals, projects, areas, resources, they can all be archived simply by checking an archived property. So let me show you how that might work with a resource that maybe isn't super interesting to us anymore. Maybe we are done with interior design, we don't care about it anymore. I could just click archived. It's going to disappear from all of our resource area views. If I go to notes over here and we switch over to our resources, we are not going to see it there either, but it is safe inside of our archive down in archived resources. So we could unarchive that if we wanted to, and the same would be true for areas, goals, projects, all that good stuff. One other thing you're going to see here is fleeting notes. So what is a fleeting note? Well, you probably know that some notes you add to your system are notes you want to keep forever. They are references that are great for long-term review or reference, but some notes are just stuff you jot down that's useful in the moment, but will never be useful to you again. Well, inside of your notes area, you're going to see this little drop down or toggle called fleeting notes. And anything you add to this area will automatically archive itself after 1 month of inactivity. You will also see fleeting notes here in the note inbox and by default on the dashboard right here. So if you have, say, a meeting with Tiago, and you want to just like jot down some notes and you know they're not really going to be that important because maybe they're about a promotion that's coming up in the next week and then it's never going to matter again, you could jot stuff down here, and within a month it's going to be out of this fleeting notes view and it's going to show up here in the archive view. It's something that I cannot demo for you because I don't have any notes that are over a month old in this demo area, but if you look at the filters, you will see that if updated is on or before a month ago, it's going to show up here as long as it's fleeting, or if you manually archive it. So between fleeting notes and cold tasks, we have some automatic archival logic and automation inside of Ultimate Brain that sort of gets certain things out of your hair. And then we also have the processes for hitting that archive checkbox to make sure that you can also manually get stuff into the archive and out of the more important areas. So I think we've gone over most of what is important here, except for these bottom 3 links. So let me now quickly go through over those. And I think that didn't make sense what I just said, but you get the gist. First, let's talk about quick links. So a very long time ago, I realized that if you use a link to page block inside of Notion, you will actually see that link inside of the sidebar. So Ultimate Brain comes with a page called Quick Links, and the idea behind Quick Links is that you would favorite it with the star button here, and then you would add link to page blocks inside of this little synced block. And the reason there's a synced block here is that your quick links are also visible on your dashboard, but you don't have to use the sync block if you don't care about that. So let's say that I'm always going to my salmon pasta and asparagus recipe. I just want a really, really quick link to that area of my second brain. I could go into quick links and I could add simply the URL, and then by choosing link to page instead of mention, link specifically, I'm going to have a link that shows up in my sidebar. So Quick Links just basically gives me a one-click access to those really important pages inside of my system. And this works for anything inside of Notion. It's not particular to stuff inside of the Ultimate Brain template. Literally any page inside of Notion you could put inside your Quick Links. I love using Quick Links for video projects I'm working on inside of Creator's Companion, for classes I'm taking, notes that I'm writing, all kinds of stuff will go inside of my own Quick Links area. So let's talk about these special views that come with Ultimate Brain. We have both a book tracker and a recipe book. Like I said earlier, these two are actually using the default notes database. And I'm gonna wrap this up by showing you where those databases are so you can access them if you need, but they have some special properties. So we actually built a special page for them. So first and foremost, we have a book tracker. There is a gallery thing. We can see all of the books based on their statuses. We can also split these out by to read, reading, read, and paused if we want to. And it's just a great place to write notes and summaries and your thoughts on books you read. So the example that comes with the template is this deadline effect book. And here I have my book status, my date finished and started. And you'll notice that when you generate this from the template, and let me do one as an example for you, those properties are not going to be showing by default because we don't want them to show when we're just doing regular notes. So if I make a new book notes note, and let's just call this one Atomic Habits because I'll be filling that one out at some point in the future. I can go to the 22 more properties button right here, and you will notice there is a book divider property, and this just shows you all of the book tracker properties in one nice little group. So here I can add the date I started this book, the date I finished it, and I can also add my status, which is going to be read, and my rating, which for this book will be 5 stars. I can come in here as well and add summary, overall thoughts, main takeaways, my notes on all the chapter, and I'm going to then see my book inside of my gallery and also within my correct status area. So just know that those properties are sort of hidden for the book tracker, and they are not hidden though on the all books area. So this is actually a nice little dashboard where you could process all these different properties related to your books. And if you wanted a cover to show on the gallery, like it does here for Deadline Effect, this specifically uses the image attachment property. So you just go get an image and you would upload it right here, or embed a link if you wanted to. So that's the book tracker. There's also a recipe book, and this is where you can keep a nice little database of recipes so you can cook more often instead of ordering out all the time. This is definitely some advice towards myself. And I find when I have easily accessible recipes, it is easier to cook and motivate myself to do so. So just like the book tracker, we have a gallery where you can just see all of your recipes. It doesn't have sort criteria, so you can just drag things around in the order that you want. But we also have a full book, which splits out by meal type, but also a couple of special categories, healthy and quick. And you can just decide for yourself what healthy and quick means. You can add recipes from here, and then we also have split out views for all of these different special categories. Breakfast, lunch, dinner, dessert, healthy, quick, they're all there. So just like with the book thing, we would generate from our recipe template. And instead of doing that, I'm just gonna show you one of these recipes here. The recipe template is going to include just the tag. In this case, we don't have a whole ton of crazy stuff, but we have a lot of useful information inside of the template page content itself. So we have an ingredients area, we have a recipe area, we have our quick links bar. So if you're on your phone at the grocery store, you can easily zoom down to ingredients if you need to. And I've even included a drop down for the inbox. So if you are listing out all of your ingredients here, or you know what they are, you could actually, let's just say we need these 3. I could hold Alt and I could drag them into my inbox. Don't remove sorting. And now I've got those on my task list. And if I were to go to my actual inbox right here, I would see these 3 as tasks, which I could then go and click off at the store if I wanted to. So that is the recipe book. Let's finish out this tutorial by showing you where the actual databases live, because Notion's database update actually gave us the ability to hide the database title. If I went into layout and showed the database title here, we could just get to it, but it's so much cleaner to have it hidden. So I'll just show you where it is. In Archive, way down to the bottom, there's this toggle called the brain. And inside the brain, you will find all of Ultimate Brain's main databases. There are 6 of them. We have all tasks, projects, notes, goals, milestones for those goals, and then your areas and resources. Note that areas and resources live in the exact same database, and the only thing that separates them is a type tag. So we can type something as area, or we can type something as resource, and then it would be up to you to simply generate from the correct template to make it look the way you want. So for our resources, we just want to see the notes and the web clips, but for the areas, we want to see our projects and goals and favorites and all that stuff. So just make sure that you type correctly, and also those templates will apply the type as well. So it's pretty easy if you just apply from the template. So that is the overview of Ultimate Brain. Like I said, I'm going to have a lot more tutorials, bite-sized tutorials, reference material, getting started guides, all kinds of stuff coming in the next few days. I just wanted to get this template released as soon as possible because I know people have been really rearing to get it, and I think everything is laid out in a way where you can just kind of start exploring and seeing how it's going to work for you. My last bit of advice here is most of the views, in fact, all the views inside of Ultimate Brain have filter criteria, and in some cases, that filter criteria adds default statuses that are always going to be applied. For example, the task manager, if you go to literally any view in the task manager, you will see that we always are adding a Kanban status and a priority by using the not empty filter. And the reason I tell you this is if you decide to make your own views of these databases for your own dashboards, you will want to make sure that any sort of default statuses are applied, and that could be tricky. So what I recommend doing instead, if you're going to create your own views, is simply click in the little 6-dot menu here, and then you can click off and you can copy that view. And then let's just say you threw it somewhere else. You could paste it. You could either choose to sync it if you wanted it to be totally synced, or you could dismiss it and then actually customize it and change it up. But by doing it that way, you're gonna have those filter criteria there. And as you can see, some of these filter criteria are kind of complex, and if you haven't been spending every waking moment designing Notion templates, you might not quite understand what's going on here. And I can explain if you have questions about how things work, you can study them and they may become more apparent to you, but just make sure that you copy and paste database views instead of making your own, just so you don't have issues where tasks are getting lost because they aren't getting those default statuses that they're supposed to get. And I think that's going to do it for this tutorial of Ultimate Brain. Let me know what your questions are in the support channel here in Circle. Let me know what your suggestions are as well for improvements to this template. Let me know if you find any bugs. And once again, thank you for buying the template. Thank you for your support, and I'll see you in that community.